My wife secretly invited her brother on our honeymoon despite my refusal, so I ditched her at the airport and went on a solo trip instead. Hi. So my wife, Jacqueline, 30 female, and I, 27 male, got married about a week ago, and yesterday we were supposed to leave for our honeymoon. But I ended up taking a flight to someplace else altogether because her younger brother, Andy 26 male, showed up at the airport. And apparently, Jacqueline was in on this the whole time and had actually invited him to come along with us. For context, her brother Andy recently went through a terrible divorce with his ex-wife and has been very torn up about it for the past couple of months. Andy and his ex had been high school sweethearts and got married as soon as they could. They spent several beautiful years together until about a year ago when Andy found out that she had been having an affair for months with one of her co-workers. He tried to make it work with her even after that, but after several sessions of marriage counseling, his ex was the one who filed for divorce because she claimed that she just couldn't do this anymore. He begged her to stay, but in spite of that, she left and they got divorced. He received everything in the divorce, the house, the cars, and a hefty settlement, but it wasn't enough for him because he wanted his marriage to stay intact and didn't care about anything else. I thought it was really sad and I honestly felt bad for him because he was a sweet person and he didn't deserve it. To be honest, nobody deserves to live like that and I had witnessed firsthand how depressed he was in the months following the divorce. I wanted to help him out, but all I could offer him were words of consolation. I wanted to involve him in the wedding so that he would stay busy and distracted, but Jacqueline told me that she didn't think it was such a good idea because being part of a wedding like ours would just remind him that his own marriage had fallen apart. And she made a good point, so I decided to only stick to checking up on him once in a while. Andy and I were never close friends, but we got along well. In fact, I think I could say that about most of Jacqueline's family. I wouldn't say that I was close to any of them, but we got along well and I never had a problem with any of them so far. But then, a day after my wedding, my mother-in-law, Norman 55 male, called me up and said that he wanted me to invite Andy to accompany us on our honeymoon. Jacqueline and I had been planning for this for a really long time, and I think I had been more excited about the honeymoon than the wedding if I'm being really honest. I love traveling and so does Jacqueline, and we love mountain ranges in particular. So we had a whole tour of the Alps planned. We had taken about 3 weeks off from work, and we had been really looking forward to this ever since we planned it. Now I did feel bad for Andy, and I would have been willing to do whatever it took to cheer him up except for this. Norman told me that even Andy loved to travel and he believed that going on a trip with us would help him with the pain. But Andy wouldn't be willing to come along unless I invited him personally, so he wanted me to ask him and make it seem like I wanted him to come along. But truth be told, I didn't want him to come with us. For starters, this was supposed to be our honeymoon, and I don't think it's appropriate for family to accompany the newlyweds on their honeymoon. And secondly, I was really looking forward to this since the weeks leading up to the wedding had been really busy and hectic for both of us. Jacqueline and I had specifically taken time off so we could travel and have some quality time with just each other. It didn't seem fair for Norman to ask me to give all that up for the sake of Andy's happiness. So with a heavy heart, I had to tell Norman that I couldn't do so because it wouldn't be fair to either of us. I expected him to understand that this was supposed to be our honeymoon, and I didn't want Andy tagging along. He didn't fight with me at the time, but tried to convince me that this could do him a world of good, and I would be doing them all a huge favor by inviting him to come with us. He told me that he was going to cover the cost of Andy traveling with us, and I didn't even have to worry about the money. All that I had to do was invite him and be there for him. He was pushing it really hard, but even then, I stood my ground and firmly declined because it was not fair to either of us. I could understand that it was difficult for him to deal with a divorce, but he couldn't just tag along with us and expect us to give up our honeymoon just so we could cheer him up. Besides, it wasn't even Andy trying to convince me to let him come along, nor believe that it would be good for him to travel with us. Had Andy approached me, I might have even considered saying yes, but I didn't think that he wanted to come along with us either because he hadn't said anything of the sort. And even when I had mentioned the honeymoon to him, he hadn't shown any interest in wanting to come with us and just told me to have fun. That was it. So after a few minutes of conversation and arguing, Norman decided to drop it and it didn't come up after that. After that conversation, I spoke to Jacqueline about what her father had said, but strangely enough, she didn't have any reaction to it. She just asked me what I had told him and I told her that I had said no. When I said that, she just grunted and that was it. No further discussion about it. In hindsight, I probably should have read more into it, but at the time, I was just too excited to start packing for our honeymoon, so I didn't pay much mind to her reaction. In the week between the wedding and the honeymoon, we were busy at work because we were trying to wrap everything up before we left, so we didn't have a chance to meet anybody from her family and nobody tried to get in touch with us either. Jacqueline and I would talk about the honeymoon and our trip occasionally whenever we were at home this last week, but she didn't say a single word about what she had been planning until the very last minute. I had no idea that she had invited Andy to come with us, and I only found out when we were at the airport and Andy and Norman showed up yesterday. Jacqueline and I left about 3 hours before our flight was scheduled. At the airport, while we were waiting outside and taking our bags out of the cabs, I suddenly noticed Andy and Norman approaching us. I tried to give everybody involved the benefit of the doubt until I noticed that Andy had his bags with him. I knew then that he was definitely not here to just say goodbye to us or drop us off. He yelled surprise really loudly and then hugged me when he was close enough. But I was still trying to process what was going on because I think I had been very clear about my feelings on this with both Jacqueline and her father. However, despite what I had said, here he was seemingly ready to accompany us on our honeymoon. When Andy realized that I looked confused and not happy when I saw him, his smile faded, and he asked me if I was not happy to see him. I didn't even know what to say, so I just turned to Jacqueline for an explanation. I wanted her to tell me that she had no idea about any of this and that Norman was the one who was responsible for this, but instead, she told me that after I had informed her about the phone call and the conversation that I had with Norman the other day, she couldn't help but think about how nice it would be for Andy to come with us on the trip and have a good time to distract him. The reason she had not reacted that day was that she had gone behind my back a couple of hours later and told Andy that, apparently, I was the one who had suggested this idea and invited him to come with us on the trip to surprise me. And she was right about one thing: I was definitely surprised, but not in a good way. I thought it was sneaky and selfish of her to go behind my back and do the one thing that I had told her I didn't want. I like Andy, like I said. He's a really nice person and I like him. But I like a lot of people. I'm not going to take all of them with me on my honeymoon just because it would be a nice thing to do. I don't have to do things just because it's a sweet thing to do, especially when it comes to something as intimate and special as a honeymoon. After Jacqueline told me that this was her idea and she was the one who had invited him to come along with us, I sort of snapped at her right in front of Andy and her father and told her that this was simply unacceptable. I knew that Andy would feel bad about it, but that was not the thing on my mind at that moment. I told her that she had gone behind my back and I couldn't forgive her for that because it had barely even been a week into our marriage, and she was already being sneaky and lying to me. She tried to pass this off as something really small and insignificant, but she knew I'd been planning for this honeymoon for ages, and I had made it very clear to her that I was really looking forward to this. Even on the day that I had told her about the suggestion that Norman had made, and that I didn't like the idea of asking Andy to come along just because he was depressed. I think I had been very clear about my feelings on this. So this was not petty or insignificant in the slightest to me. I felt like she had betrayed me and I was extremely upset, but she simply refused to look at it like that. She said that I was making a bigger deal out of it than was necessary and completely blowing this out of proportion. She told me that Andy would be paying for himself. He would stay in a separate room and he would only join us for certain activities, but we wouldn't be together all the time. However, that was not enough for me because at the end of the day, he was still going to be accompanying us on our honeymoon, and I don't know about everybody else, but I really think that's weird. Had this been any other trip like a normal weekend trip, I don't think I would have had a problem, but asking my brother-in-law to come with me on my honeymoon was where I drew the line. After a bit of fighting and arguing, I decided that I had had enough. And since Jacqueline refused to take accountability and accept that she had done something messed up, I thought that I was better off going away on my own. I had already taken 3 weeks off from work and I wasn't going to let that go to waste, so I dropped the argument and went inside the airport after telling her not to follow me. But of course, she did follow me. However, I didn't want her around me at that particular point in time, so I actually had to yell at her to stop following me around and said that I didn't want her anywhere near me, or I would report her for harassment. That stopped her from coming after me, but I could tell from her face that she was really upset and hurt by what I said. I didn't care because I was pissed off, and I just wanted to be away from her. So once I had yelled at her and she had stopped following me, I decided to get myself a ticket and hopped on the next flight to Miami. I was really lucky because it didn't require me to wait for long, and I was on the flight before Jacqueline even had a chance to change her mind about following me. Once I landed in Miami, I decided to turn on my phone and check for texts, and I realized that my inbox was full of messages from Jacqueline, Andy, and Norman. All of them seemed to be really apologetic for whatever had happened, but the only apology that really stood out was the one that I received from Andy. He told me that when, a few days ago, Jacqueline had visited him and told him that I had been suggesting that he accompany us on our honeymoon, he could barely even believe it. Apparently, he was even about to ask me if I was actually okay with it because he didn't want to be intruding. But Jacqueline was the one who told him not to ask me because she wanted it to be a surprise for me. She had laid it on thick and made him believe that this was my idea, but after our fight at the airport, it had become clear to him that this was all planned by his father and his sister. And he said that he was sorry on their behalf because what they had done was really stupid, and he didn't blame me for reacting the way that I did. Because if he were in my place, he probably would have done the same thing. His apology seemed genuine, and I told him that it was okay. I could understand that he was going through something really difficult, and he wasn't even involved in any of this, so I forgave him. But with Jacqueline and Norman, it was a different story altogether. Jacqueline was apologizing, but she was also trying hard to make me seem like the bad guy here, and the same applied to Norman as well. They were trying to push me into believing that they only had good intentions and didn't think that I would get so upset about this. They claimed that they had believed that I would eventually be okay with this because I always acted like I liked Andy, and I do. I really like him, but like I said, that doesn't mean that I want him around on my honeymoon, and if they can't accept it, then I don't know what to tell them. Now, I know for a fact that I'm not in the wrong here, but I still kind of feel bad, and it doesn't help that ever since I landed here, I've been fighting with Jacqueline nonstop. It's because she just doesn't want to accept that she messed up by going behind my back and that this was not the right thing to do. I understand and really respect the fact that she loves her family so much and is willing to make sacrifices for them, but I think it's extremely unfair to expect me to make the same sacrifices for her family. And not to mention, I'm her family as well now, and she owes me certain things. It just feels like my happiness doesn't mean as much to her as her family's, and it feels really petty to make it seem like a competition, but that's how it appears. If she actually valued my happiness as much as she valued her brother's, maybe she wouldn't have gone behind my back and done the one thing that I had asked her not to. We have been fighting and it's been really bad because we've just been married for a week, and we've gotten off on the wrong foot already. We have been together for almost 7 years before this, and I feel like crap right now because something like this has never happened before. We have always had a relatively normal relationship, and yes, of course, like any other couple, we have also had fights, but none of this magnitude, and I just don't know how to deal with this. She insists that her heart was in the right place and that I really need to understand that. She claims that while having Andy accompany us on the honeymoon wasn't going to ruin anything for me, it would have meant a great deal to him and maybe even saved him from getting worse down the road. And I can't explain to her that having Andy accompany us on the honeymoon would have kind of ruined it for me without sounding like a really terrible person and the kind of husband who wants to separate his wife from her family, but I promise you guys that's not the case. I know logically I am not the bad guy here, but all the fighting with my wife has made me feel like I'm losing my mind, and I have absolutely no idea how to go ahead. Am I wrong for leaving my wife behind at the airport and canceling our honeymoon when I realized that she had invited her brother to accompany us on our trip? Update 1. So I'm still in Miami, and I have been traveling a lot. This is my first time here, and a lot of you guys suggested a couple of places that I should go see, and I've been doing exactly that to take my mind off things. I still haven't been able to sort things out with my wife because Jacqueline is being very stubborn. She is sticking to whatever she believes, and she honestly thinks that having Andy be with us on the honeymoon wouldn't have been any different. She is so convinced of it that it took me all the comments here to make me realize that I wasn't going crazy and that she was being unreasonable. I can't understand why she doesn't get it when even Andy himself has acknowledged that it would have been weird. She has been texting me, but I have just given up on trying to explain things to her. I had been arguing for a while, but I completely wasted the last few days that I have been here staying in my hotel room and arguing with her. I have spent enough of my time trying to make her see sense, but I can't help her if she refuses to acknowledge the obvious. The worst part of this is that I can't even fully enjoy myself because in the back of my mind, I keep thinking about Jacqueline and what I'm going to say to her when I go back. I can't avoid her forever, and we are literally married, so it's not even like we can just break up and be done with it. My entire existence feels heavy, and I don't know, I just feel like everything is going wrong right now. I have talked to my parents about this, but they don't really know what to do either. They only advised me to do whatever I felt was right and they would be supportive of it. And I guess that's kind of helpful knowing that they will be on my side no matter what, but I can't help feeling like everything is falling apart. And the fact that it's been less than even a month since our wedding is what makes everything so much harder to deal with. I know it's really easy for people to just tell me that this is a huge red flag and I should leave my wife, get divorced, and be done with it, but in reality, it's not that easy. And I'm not even talking about the legal process of divorce. I'm talking about the emotional and mental toll it takes. I don't know what I'm going to do. Full disclosure, I just have absolutely no idea, and I don't even know what to expect. Update 2. I returned from Miami a couple of days ago, and things have not been great so far. The day that I came back, I returned to an empty home because Jacqueline was not here. I spent 3 weeks in Miami, and after 2.5 weeks, she stopped texting me. Even the last few messages that she sent me were about how she was still insisting that she did not have bad intentions, and that I needed to reconsider whatever I was doing. When I came back home, I decided to finally respond to her and told her that I was back here. I didn't know what was going to happen, I just felt like I had to tell her because then at least something would happen. I couldn't stand the uncertainty of not knowing what the future holds, and I felt like I just had to talk to her. So the day that I told her that I was back here, she texted me back saying that she would come over the next day and we could talk. I thought that it was a good sign and we would finally get somewhere, but when she came over the next day, we were still stuck talking about the same things. We were still fighting about who was overreacting and who was in the wrong. She continued to say that I shouldn't have reacted the way that I did in front of Andy and made such a big deal out of this because I should have just trusted her since she would never do anything to jeopardize our relationship. But the fact that I was against something as silly as Andy joining us for our honeymoon, which was nothing but a glorified vacation, made her feel like I was being a little too oversensitive and that I had no need to act so crazy about it. I thought that it was really unfair. I had already told her before how I felt about Andy joining us, but she had completely overlooked it. More than Andy being a part of our honeymoon, I had a problem with her going behind my back and lying to me. In fact, she not only lied to me, but she also lied about me when she told Andy that it was my suggestion that he join us for our honeymoon. I would love for him to be happy, but not at the cost of my own happiness, and I don't think there's anything selfish or cruel about it, like the way she was trying to portray it. If anything, she was the one being selfish because she couldn't be bothered to think about my feelings and only cared about being the good girl for her family, but not for me. It made me feel like she was telling me I was not worth it, and that was a really sucky feeling. On top of that, there was the fact that she was currently living in a hotel because she said that she hadn't even left after she found out that I had taken off without her. She told me that after I stopped responding to her messages, she had half a mind to go ahead and file for a divorce because she thought I was taking things too far. I thought this attitude was uncalled for because she was the one who screwed up. We argued a lot and to sum things up, there was absolutely no improvement in our situation. She keeps saying that I don't have a sibling, which is why I don't understand why this is so important to her. And alright, maybe that's true. I'll never personally understand what it is like to have a sibling and care for them so much. But you know what? There were several people in the comments of this post who did have siblings and they told me that this was taking things too far. So, yeah, maybe she is the one who is wrong and she's just trying to gaslight me into believing that I'm the one who is overreacting. Whatever the case, I'm not falling for any of it. I have made up my mind that if she doesn't apologize to me soon, then I might just have to talk to my lawyer and prepare for a divorce. If she does apologize, that's a different story. I've been thinking about marriage counseling, but that's only if she approaches me within the next few days and tells me that she is sorry about everything. Right now, it seems really unlikely just by the way she and Nate are the only people who think what she did was completely fine and I am the one who is taking it too hard for no reason. But Andy, the person who they are fighting so hard for, is actually on my side on this. He has reached out to me several times to let me know that he has been trying to explain this to both Nate and Jacqueline and tell them that what they did was backhanded and it was just not cool, but they're not even willing to listen to him, which just goes to show that it's more important for them to be right than to do the right thing. I totally don't even know what to think anymore because this situation is just ridiculous. I thought that I had married a sensible and amazing woman, but right now, I don't feel that this is the same person that I had married. I have a lot of conflicting feelings and talking about it here helps me make sense of it even if it's just a little. I just don't want anything apart from a resolution to this. It's getting really tiring now, and I can't continue to deal with this drama all the time. Update 3. Hi, folks. So this update is long overdue now. I haven't posted anything here for the past couple of months because I've been going through a terrible divorce. I did decide to give it a chance and suggested marriage counseling. A couple of days after my last update here, she had expressed that she wanted to work on our marriage and she didn't want to give up yet. Jacqueline said that she wasn't ready to let go of me and wanted to work on our issues. So, after a lot of deliberation, she and I decided to give marriage counseling a try, but it didn't help. We would be doing perfectly fine during the sessions in the presence of our therapist, but as soon as we were out, it would be back to fighting, and it would feel like we were just wasting time. During therapy sessions, we still didn't give up though. We attended the sessions for almost a month until we finally called it quits because it just didn't make sense to keep attending the sessions and work everything out there, but continue to keep fighting in real life. She wasn't ready to accept that she was being a little too family-oriented for her own good and was forgetting that I was her family also, and I wasn't okay with living a life like that where I would always come second. So both of us agreed that it would be for the best if we just separated. It sounds easy, but it was an incredibly difficult decision to make and both of us were shattered that this was not going to work out. We filed for divorce mutually, and right now, we are in the settlement phase. At this point, I don't even care what I get out of the divorce. I just want this to be over so I can move on with my life and pretend that this never happened. I have been looking into individual therapy for myself because it's really crazy what I'm dealing with here, and I really think I could do with help to process everything that's going on. My parents and my friends have been incredibly supportive, and I'm really grateful for it because they're the only people who are actually making it easier for me. I know lots of people are gossiping about me and how my marriage fell apart within less than a year, but I honestly don't even care. What matters is that the people who I care about are on my side and think that I did the right thing. As long as I have that, I'm not too worried about what happens in the future. I'm just going to work and focus on myself now. Sure, it's going to be a painful couple of months emotionally, but people have gone through worse and survived, and I'm hopeful for the future. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you guys have shown me. It means a lot to me.